Hi, I am Dennis Green with Church Development. Thank you for joining us today on this very brief webinar where we cover each of our volunteer team activities. Now we have this lovely diagram that presents each of those in relationship to the oversight body of the church, whether it is your pastoral board, session, vestry, board of directors. That is the oversight above the campaign management team. Now, that team meets every week for an hour or so to cover the details. They report to the advisory committee, which is like a college board of directors. It's a large group and they just exist to set policy. So they want to make sure that each of these PETYAC teams is on track. They only meet once a month for about 3 months just to confirm the overall vision and strategy of the campaign. Now, the 6 working teams go by the acronym PETYAC, which stands for Prayer, Event, Thanks, Youth, Ambassador, and Communications. Now, these 6 committees correspond with the factors that promote generosity within a church capital campaign. Now, church capital campaign is very different from a secular capital campaign. The YMCA, museum, a college, those are wonderful institutions, but they're not a church. The basis for the existence of church is our faith. So we begin with the prayer team. Now, the prayer team has a couple of simple but very important tasks. Got to create a campaign prayer, which will appear in print and be presented and recited at worship services. We're going to try and think of a variety of ways to engage people in prayer throughout the campaign. My favorite is creating a prayer guide to use during the prayer and discernment process. Now, we'll give you a template that you can see what other churches have done. You can tailor that to your unique church. The prayer team leaders also are asked to serve on the campaign advisory committee. The events team is a bunch of extroverts. If the campaign was at my church, my wife would be on the events team because she's an extrovert and she's been on just about every committee at our church. So she knows and enjoys the church environment, and that's who you want on the events team. They're going to plan and manage the details of a whole bunch of social events. Now, those events might occur at church, in a hotel, in an event space, or in people's homes. You should offer a variety of those. Some people will select that they would like to be in a small group. Some people would like to be in a large group. So you've got to offer a variety of activities. And as always, you should plan on providing food and beverages as well. You got to think through the best way to invite members. Some churches do handwritten, some do email, and some do a web-based that you can click and sign up. The right way is the right way for your particular church, okay? The events generally have the same agenda, even though they are in different settings. We present the information and we ask people to help us identify the questions and concerns that might arise during a capital campaign. And then we feed that information over to the communications team, which goes about answering those. The thanks team perhaps has the lowest time commitment, but it's very important. The memory theory says that people will remember the highest point of the capital campaign and the final memory of the capital campaign, and that is the thank you note. So frequently this committee, we have volunteers join and say, I'm joining because no one ever thanked me for anything I ever did for the church before. So I want to thank people. So we really recommend handwritten personal thank you notes signed by a human being. Now, this is kind of how I got to know my wife. She was on the thanks committee of a capital campaign. And it was a great joy to send those out. And people would seek her out and thank her for sending them a thank you note. You could also consider giving a thank you gift. My personal favorite is a Christmas tree ornament. People tend to just love those. We worked at one campaign in Liberty, Missouri, where the wind blew down a tree. So the pastor said, God has provided the resources, and they cut it up into cubes and laser engraved the church logo on it. No economic value, but a wonderful memento. of the campaign. Some churches choose to put up a donor plaque. You've got to tailor that to the personality of your church if that's right or if that will not work. And also, the thanks team leaders do serve on the advisory committee. The youth team provides an opportunity for youth and children to learn about stewardship. We know that they're not going to make significant financial gifts. That's not what we're looking for, but we want them to have an experience, an awareness that we, the members of the church, are gathering together and pooling our resources to do something wonderful that those youth will hopefully experience as adults. So it is a transformational opportunity. So we want to be very deliberate about that. We want to get some youth to serve on the team. We want them to do some activity. My personal favorite one is to give all the kids a rock a week before we pour concrete. Say, put this in your pocket, pray, and then next Sunday after church, put it in the concrete forms, and the new wing will be built on your prayers. I love that. Kids seem to love it as well. The ambassador team really just has 2 meetings, but these people have got to be sales oriented, pretty stout personalities that can handle calling someone they might not know to address any questions and concerns. So I might get a list of 10 or 20 people that I would call. We prepare them with a script, questions and answers, all the materials, all the questions that they might have addressed to them. The volunteers could hand deliver packets or they could call people. Kind of depends on what your church selects, but it's real important that we make a human contact with everybody in the church. So we need a bunch of ambassador teams, volunteers who work 2 to 3 hours just before Commitment Sunday in the a month before Commitment Sunday. So the other teams are active 5 months before Commitment Sunday, but the ambassador team kicks in just right then, right before Commitment Sunday. And they would also be asked to make a second round of contacts in the month after Commitment Sunday, because usually only about half the people make their pledges on Commitment Sunday. The communications team, we rarely have trouble finding volunteers because it's really fun. They've got to be the marketing people and branding. So they come up with a slogan and a logo, and then our staff at Church Development will create 3 options so that they can select for visual and linguistics to match the personality of the church. They've also got to plan ways to communicate. So we're going to have some big things like banners and signs. And we're going to do some standard things like a campaign newsletter and a brochure, but there's a whole lot of other communication that happens weekly in the bulletin, announcements, text, emails, and a lot of short videos as well. So they help generate the thematic content of all the communication, and then we help produce those things. Now they are very busy and it's a lot of fun and they really have a huge impact. So this is a summary of the 6 teams. Now I'm going to shift gears and show you what does a capital campaign manual look like. So every one of these volunteer teams has their own manual. Here's the one I selected for the prayer team. You can see from the table of contents, and I'm going to expand my screen a little bit here. Oh, it's not expanding. But you can see that a 16-page manual is dramatic. That's a big manual. It has a very clear set of resources that are presented and objectives and timelines and responsibilities, so that anybody who gets that 16-page manual immediately has a clear definition of what my job is, what the tasks are, what the deadlines are, and what resources are available as well. We even, for instance, and here's a prayer team agenda. We give agendas of what activities will look like, sample campaign prayers, and we even have selected a large number of very popular scripture related to stewardship. So the resources are thorough. So if you're the pastor watching this video and you are going to recruit a volunteer to serve as a prayer team leader, you can send them this webinar, you can send them the manual, you can send them that chart, and they will know exactly what their job is. So I want to thank you for joining me right now, and God bless you in your capital campaign. If we can help, please do not hesitate to contact me or anyone else at Church Development. Thank you so much. God bless.